On the trail of Bigfoot, the search picks up right where the legend left off. You might think this one would be the team out in the woods for hours and hours, but it's not. It's still mostly interviews with some fresh faces. But don't worry, they do get into the forest soon enough and get some pretty interesting footage. Chapter 4 is all about asking the right questions. And here is where they get into a little bit more of the woo-woo side of Sasquatch hunting. They touched on UFOs and Bigfoot in the last one, but here they go all in, talking about how tracks have just disappeared in wide open fields, like the beast just vanished into another dimension. It's kind of interesting that these types of theories didn't pop up until the 70s, when the UFO fields and Bigfoot fields started to overlap. The old school researchers seem to dismiss these ideas and are almost offended by them. But, I mean, this is Bigfoot you're talking about. You have to be pretty open-minded when it comes to this stuff.
Never explain one unknown with another unknown. And UFOs being projected into the Bigfoot field tended to be an easy out for individuals that were not too strict about their investigation or their critical thinking.
In addition to the people we talked to in the first film, we also have Shannon LeGros from the podcast Into the Fray, Adam Dugan, another level-headed skeptic that says the simplest answer is usually the correct one, and he seems to believe in the flesh and blood theory. And later on, we meet Mike and Mike, some East Coast investigators.
Posterior casts.
They talk about how some of our best evidence is from casts, be it either the knuckles, the knees, and of course the foot. There seems to be different types of Bigfoot too. The southern Sasquatch's footprint has more of a hand-like look to it, with one toe off to the side. And there's even been reports of these creatures looking differently. Most look like an ape, but some look more human. Then, of course, there's brown hair, black hair, and even white hair. They also bring up the different behaviors that have been witnessed. Anything from tree knocks, faux speech, and rock throws. Kathy Strain recounts her sighting of a juvenile Bigfoot. She was out in the woods and heard a scuffling noise. She looked over and saw what she calls two animals, one big and one small, trying to get behind a shed. But they didn't know she was watching them. Then she has the balls to jump up and run towards them. They get away pretty quickly up the hillside. She thought that they were ghosts because how fast they moved. In Chapter 5, they head to Area X, a very remote location in the Ouachita Mountain. The North American Wood Ape Conservancy, or NAWAC for short, is out there 24/7 for 6 months out of the year, working in shifts. Talk about commitment. And during this time, they've gotten some pretty good evidence. Some of the best was from what they call the rain of rocks. They were just hanging out in a cabin, and something started throwing rocks and whatever it could on the roof. They even have some audio of this. They also got some audio evidence of some faux speech, a whistle, and a crash. And then even a wood knock. Honestly, all pretty great evidence. Which, I mean, they should have something to show for spending half a year out there. But this movie is called The Search, and they're supposed to be out searching for this thing, bringing in new evidence to the table. And finally, with the NAWAC, they get something. One of the members, Daryl, was out just waiting for the creature to swing by. gun in hand. Then he saw some leaves move and heard vocalizations. He radios his findings and then reports that he sees a conical head and slits for eyes, and it looked very ape-like. The rest of the team head towards him, but they're too late. In the Bigfoot community, there's this divide on how to prove that these creatures exist. Some people think that casts, eyewitness stories, and video is enough to prove its existence. However, others think that you're gonna need a body. Just take a guess on what category Daryl falls into. Yeah, he believes that you're gonna need a body to prove that this thing exists. Then, maybe people would actually start to focus on conservation and helping them. And he said he missed his chance. One time, he was out there, and he saw one of these creatures in his scope. He took the shot and emptied his gun into it. When he went to get his prize, it was already gone. Only a blood trail to some rocks. They had the blood analyzed, but of course, it came back inconclusive. The team thinks that Bigfoot is more curious about us and how they're probably watching them right now. At night, they find this out to be the case. They're all sitting around doing what they always do, and they spot something in the woods. They shine a flashlight on it and then move it away, and sure enough, two eyeballs staring right back at them. This is enough evidence for the team. Satisfied, they return home. Chapter 6, Discovery, takes place back in Ohio. They're excited about the eye shine and all the stories they collected in Oklahoma, so they want to be more involved in the search back home. But here, they notice a difference in investigators. Most notably, funding. These guys are your average Joes who work a 9 to 5. They spend their free time and money out in the woods researching, either because they're obsessed with the topic, or they saw a fleeting glimpse one time and want to see it again. At times, it's just finding a spot on the map that looks interesting and going there to check it out. That's what Mike and Mike did. They went to an old road that ended in a graveyard. When they got there, they did some howls and actually got a response. Then they went deeper into the graveyard, and all hell broke loose. There was screaming, whistles, and even what sounded like a coyote being strangled. I have to admit, the sounds are pretty scary. They drove about a half-mile up to a turnaround and did some more whoops, and that's when he saw it. A massive figure with a cone head, and it was mimicking Mike's howls. One thing I do have to say is that these guys are all in. They go to libraries, Boy Scout meetings, and even schools to talk on the subject. They call themselves the Night Stalkers, and even have custom license plates. It all goes to show the dedication some people put into this. All their hard work for something that they might not even be able to prove. But after 1 year of work, Small Town Monsters only has one question.
Why not? Why not consider that they're there, just beyond the tree line, just behind the shadows, just waiting to be found? Why not?
On the Trail of Bigfoot, The Search seems to be a fitting conclusion to the series. Although there are more, and it seems to be an ongoing thing, I really do think these two movies were meant to be it. And if they left it off right here, that'd probably be fine. On the Trail of Bigfoot has to juggle historical accounts, the people involved in them, and modern day research, all while being entertaining at the same time. By definition, a documentary is a program that provides a factual record or report. And I think, for the most part, that's what they did here. I don't think the team directly made anything up. They might have been tricked or told a story about something that you can't prove to be fact, but I feel like they at least tried to be genuine. You learn about Bigfoot sightings, you're offered the evidence, and it's up to you to believe it or not. And ultimately, if you're watching this, you probably at least have an open mind. On the Trail of Bigfoot, the search goes into modern-day Bigfoot investigators and some of their findings. You might be hoping for a little more original footage of the creature, but really, it's just more of the same stuff you got in the first one. It's just now you're talking to the people who actually had the encounters. I give it 3 Bigfoot eye shines out of 4.
What advice would you give someone who wants to get into the investigations?
So what advice would you give to
To someone,
want to get
don't.